Start immediately with that Fox News alert for you. 2 gunmen are dead after opening fire outside a Muhammad cartoon contest in Garland, Texas.
Get back in the bed, go in the bed.
At this hour, an investigation is still underway, and the suspects' identities have not been released.
Casey Stiegel is live on the ground working these leads. He's in Garland with the latest. Casey, we know the press are at 11, local, but what do we have until then?
Well, we're getting some reports that are trickling in from local affiliates here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area and also out in Arizona that these 2 suspects may have been roommates and lived together in Phoenix. And there are some search warrants being executed out in Arizona as we speak. And the FBI has told one news outlet that the 2 cases are linked. And we're working to get that information confirmed. But I can tell you that this event last night was sponsored by a group called the American Freedom Defense Initiative. And it was a Draw Muhammad cartoon contest. And in fact, the organizers advertised a $10,000 top prize for the best cartoon, although it's controversial. As you well know, such drawings are deemed insulting to many followers of Islam. Police say about 200 people were in attendance at the Curtis Colwell Center last night in a Dallas suburb, Garland, Texas, where we are. Investigators tell us as the event was nearing an end, 2 men drove up and opened fire in the parking lot on an unarmed school security officer. Officer Bruce Joyner was hit in the ankle, then treated and released at a local hospital. Police then shot back and at the 2 armed suspects, killing both of them. Again, their names have not been officially released, nor a motive, though we're hearing now of a possible Arizona connection. As word of what happened outside spread to those inside last night, look at this video of the attendees who began holding an American flag, and they said, "God bless America." Those folks eventually moved out of there to safety. No other injuries reported. Bomb squad technicians have worked through the night sweeping the suspect's vehicle and their belongings for possible explosive devices. We heard a couple of concussions in the overnight hours. We don't know if they were detonating something on the scene out there. A lot of unanswered questions right now, as this still very much remains a fluid and developing situation, one we are on top of, guys.
All right, Casey Stiegel live in Garland, Texas with the very latest. We thank you very much.
Huge news.
It is news. He mentioned that the ABC affiliate out in Phoenix has some information about this guy. They actually are releasing his name. They identify him as Elton Simpson. He is believed to have been the fellow behind the Twitter message half an hour before the attack, using the hashtag Texas attack. About 5 years ago, this Elton Simpson was convicted of lying to the FBI about plans to travel to Africa. It sounds like he was trying to join a terror group, but the judge ultimately said that the government could not prove that he was out to join a terror group.
I'd just like to add, too,
that is according to 15 ABC out in Phoenix this morning.
10 days prior to that, he tweeted disdain that this event was going to happen, and then back in April, he tweeted that he was arrested in 2010.
Meanwhile, we also find out that overnight, the FBI is all over his place, and so is the bomb squad. Right. We're at Simpson's apartment, and is it true, possibly, that his roommate was the other guy?
So we're going to know more, a little, breaking news throughout the morning. Right now, let's bring in the president of the American Islamic Forum for Democracy, Jasser, and former NYPD officer and Secret Service agent Dan Bongino. Dan, we're going to start with you. We heard reports from a couple of people with sources close to the investigation that it sounds like these 2 guys pulled up with backpacks and AK-47s with drum magazines. What does that sound to you like they had in mind?
There's no question this was a mass murder that was prevented. Absolutely no question in my mind. And right now it's all about putting together and locating that breadcrumb trail. Credit card history from these individuals, phone call history, internet search history, cash deposits, where they've been, any video they can get from places they may have been. That's what they're going to have to do from this point. But there's no question this was a mass murder in the planning.
Yeah, it turns out Simpson was well known to the FBI, and 5 years ago he was convicted for lying to federal agents about his plans to travel to Africa. So he does have roots outside the country, in this country. Jasser, as we watch this thing unfold, if this information is correct, should people at home be saying to themselves, ISIS is here?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, as we, in our work that we do at the American Islamic Forum, we unfortunately attract the ire of those who think we are not Muslim and attack us. And we've seen Twitter accounts here in Arizona, as we're seeing. This gentleman was probably from here. One of them was ISIS hates America because they want to establish the Islamic State based in abolishing free speech based in Sharia law. And it's not only those who want to criticize Muhammad. Within the Islamic faith, the prisons of countries like Saudi Arabia and Iran are filled with people who questioned Islam, who questioned the Islam of the government. So this provocative speech question is not only about those outside Islam, but within Islam, and we can't sacrifice our First Amendment in response to ISIS radicals.
Doctor, we asked Pamela Geller, who organized this event, if there was another way, if there was a way that wouldn't have to be so provocative or offensive. And she says, this is war, and the war is on free speech. This is what she had to say.
There is a war on free speech. We entered a new era last night because this wasn't Paris, this wasn't Copenhagen, this was Texas. Are we to believe that if something offends you, if something insults you, that we should go out and kill people, and that way we can get our way? Because that's really the implication here. The First Amendment protects all speech, not just ideas that we like, but most particularly political speech, because who would decide what's good and what's forbidden? The Islamic State? Muslim Brotherhood groups? This is free speech. This is the key issue of our age.
And Dr. Jasser, the reason she scheduled this particular event in this particular hall was because they had something to the complete contrary back in January, where they were talking about the spread of Islamophobia throughout the United States.
Yeah, and the reason they attach so much value to the criticism of the Prophet Muhammad, these radicals, is not because of necessarily it's the most important thing theologically. I mean, otherwise they'd be mad at atheists. They do this because of the Islamo-nationalism. We only have the Prophet Muhammad unique to Islam, so they want to use it as a rallying cry for the Islamic State, all Islamic states, so they will attack it. And I say, as a reform-minded Muslim, today's provocation, they might, if we appease them about cartoons, tomorrow they'll find some other issue that provokes them, and it'll be a slippery slope that is never ending to fascists like these Islamists.
I mean, there could have been a draw, an anti-Jesus cartoon contest. People might have been unhappy, but I would say 99.9% sure there wouldn't be a shooting. Dan, now looking at what we know right now and linking it back to Charlie Hebdo and their style of an attack, we know those two assailants went underground for a while. They were quiet. They wanted the heat to get off and waiting for the right moment to act. What does it tell you about this Phoenix group? If these two were working in conjunction and showed up with backpacks and AK-47s, tweeted ahead of time what they were going to do and condemned the conference before they did it, what does that tell you about what we are looking at as a threat here at home?
Brian, I've been on this network many times, along with many others, sounding the alarm on, what I call sole proprietorship terrorism. Some call it lone wolf terror. I don't agree with that term. It's not lone wolf. They're not alone. These are people who are being inspired by propaganda by radical Islamic terrorists.
Inspired or trained? Dan, I'm very curious to see, are they coming back? Are they getting trained and coming back? Or are they just looking at video?
Well, it depends. Some are and some aren't. And that actual training, if it was happening in a terrorist facility, would leave a big breadcrumb trail. Sure. The problem, Brian, is when you look at the Boston bombing, the training was just in a magazine on how to put explosives in a kettle. So it depends on what your definition of training is.
But they did go overseas first.
Dan, can I ask you this? Does it concern you more so with the proximity of this shooting and the location now in this search extended into Arizona, with its proximity to the border?
Yeah, it absolutely should. There's a documented history of people using our southern border, and people coming in from the tri-border region in South America to use the holes in that southern border to infiltrate our security apparatus and get people into the United States. This should concern every American. This isn't an immigration issue. It's a national security issue first. It's an immigration issue second if you had to triage your priorities.
Dr. Jasser, we're going to give you the final word.
Yeah, and I think it's important that we realize that the FBI has said ISIS is in all 50 states, and we need leadership from the White House, from Congress, from media, universities, that we have to protect reformers. We have to protect those who push the envelope of free speech, because otherwise, as allow governments of Islamist regimes to set the stage of what is Islam and what isn't, and we have to allow that debate to happen.
Very interesting. Zuhdi Jasser, thanks so much. He's in the eye of the storm taking slings and arrows, but now you know why. Thanks for joining us this morning. Dan, you too. You know,